Lenny with Vintage Nationals here on the web at nationalguitar.com. There's not a sound much prettier out there than a glass slide sitting on a German silver tricone. And I'm here today to talk to you about the glass slides. I want to give you a little idea on how to get started. I have a lot of people that call. They've never played slide, they love the sound of it, and they want to start playing some slide guitar, and they want some ideas on how to pick out a slide. And that's what I'm here to do today, is give you a little idea. And let me just say, these are my preferences, and I'm sure everyone's got their own idea and they're going to have maybe something totally different, but I'm making the video so I get to say what I want to say. So here you go, take it with a grain of salt. I believe I'm now the largest seller in the world of Ian McQuee's diamond bottlenecks, and I have a wonderful selection of glass slides right here, and I'd like to talk about them for a second with you. Talk about for a second how these slides are made. I'm going to take you for a little factory tour of Ian's factory, show you a few pictures of his operation. He's got some amazing tools that that he makes these slides with that aren't, I don't even think you can buy these anymore. They actually have to keep working hard to keep the things running because they're so rare and old, but they do a perfect job for what he's trying to do here. Well, let's take a look at the Diamond Bottlenecks factory located in West Midlands in the United Kingdom. Here's a view of the shop from up above. You can see the various stations the slides move from step to step. And Ian's going to take us through building a slide. Here's the initial cut, taking the neck off of this bottleneck. He then moves over here and makes the initial sanding of the cut profiles. And here we move on to creating the inner chamfers, the rolled in effect on the slides on each side. Then to a second sanding where the seam removal is done on the outside of the slide. Then back to wax polishing the inside of the inner chamfers, getting them smoother and smoother, to a final polishing of the entire slide. And there we go. Here's the boys. Ian, thanks very much. Look forward to continued business with you. Now I play on my pinky, which you should too. And again, that's personal opinion. Let's talk for a second about some other materials. Now I love glass slides. I think they sound the best, they feel the best. Many of you have probably seen this type of slide, which is very common. A little piece of metal that's been chrome plated, thin, and it's a straight piece. There's no flare to it. You've probably seen this particular slide, which I hate. These are the Pyrex super thin. Maybe if you're playing on a Strat or an electric guitar, something this thin, there's really no mass or weight to it, there's no flare to it, and it certainly doesn't fit the finger as well as it should. In sizing the slide, there's a few things to consider. Number one, it's how it fits on your finger, of course, and it has to be comfortable. This particular slide fits wonderfully. The way I kind of figure out whether it fits well or not is I want a slide that's actually going to, if I turn it upside down, wiggle it a little bit, I can get it off. Okay, just wiggling it. I don't have to pull it. I can just wiggle it like this and it's going to fall off. And it's going to fall off. Okay, if it's too tight to where you put this thing on and you can wiggle it forever, it's not going to come off, and you actually got to pull it off. That's too tight. I want my finger to have a little bit of flexibility to it when I'm playing with a slide, and if it's on too tight, it's a little tougher to bend the finger, and you've also got pressure on your finger, which you don't really want. This particular one here fits me perfect. Now, the other thing you want to think about is the length of the slide. Now, if you see here, my pinky actually comes out the end just a touch. For me, that's about a 2-inch slide, maybe a 2 1/8 inch slide length. And that gives me the ability to control the slide a little bit. Here's another one that fits me just right. You can see my pinky comes out there. I can actually roll the pinky, the edge of the pinky, just over the outside of the slide. And that pretty much gives me a little more control. If I need to bend down in and catch a string in the middle of the fretboard, it allows me to give a little more control to do that. So I like my finger coming out just a touch. And again, that's my personal preference, but it gives me the control in the slide. It's not flopping around. What I don't like is a slide that's too big for my finger. And here's an example of one that's basically rattling around. If I just turn my finger upside down, it's just gonna fall off. What happens with that is I tend to keep my finger creased a little bit to hold on to the slide, and that's creating tension in my finger, which is creating tension in my hand, which I don't want when I'm playing. So as far as the length goes, as I said, I like a length that's going to allow me to get my little finger off the top just a little bit, and I can hold that slide on there if I need to. I can bend my finger in and catch a string or do a hammer on the middle of the fretboard more accurately that way. I feel like I have the most control with that amount of diameter and that amount of length to it. Beyond that, now if you notice, different slides are going to have different profiles. If you look at these two slides right here, you can see this one has quite a bit of a flare. It gets bigger as bottlenecks do, get bigger as it goes up. This one is pretty much doesn't do that. It's a straight shot. There's no flare on it. Now, if I'm playing a guitar like a 1930 Triolean, 31 Triolean in this case, this has a flat fretboard on it. So if I was playing mostly on this guitar, I would want a flatter radius to this slide. If I'm barring a fret while I'm playing with this slide, it's going to give me a cleaner sound because it's going to fit the profile, the radius of the fretboard. If I have a more rounded fretboard, a more radius fretboard like the 14 fret Nationals used to have, vintage ones, then I'm going to want something that's got a little more radius on it. So then we're going to get to the weight of the slide. If you look at this thickness of this wall versus the thickness of this, you can see there's a substantial difference, and weight-wise there's a substantial difference between these two. In fact, the other end of the spectrum would be something like this. Oh, how about that? Diamond Bottleneck Ultimate. And this is much heavier, it's thicker. This is actually made with 2 pieces of glass. They do these fabulous patterns. This was actually a gift from Ian to me, and I'm very grateful for that. I love this slide. It doesn't have a lot of radius to it. It's got some, just enough. And this gives me, again, my little finger comes out the end just a touch. I've got just the right amount of inner diameter for me. And there's just enough of a radius at the end where it flares up. It's a little bigger at this end than that. A lot of people tend to grab the slide and put their finger in the big end and not the small end. You want to go into the small end and have it kind of be snug near the base of your finger, so you're not really having to do a whole lot to keep it on there. You don't want to be fighting with it or pulling it with your finger or cramping your finger inside to try to keep the slide on your finger. You want it to naturally stay there without being too tight. Well, that's it. I hope you liked that little tutorial. It's just a few minutes, but a little idea, because people are always asking me these questions. How to choose a slide, how to get one that fits, what do you look for? And I'm going to take this cool, tigery, heavy, all you need. See you there. NationalGuitar.com.